Lights, camera, action.
What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody?
What's up, guys? It's home opening day for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Opening day. So we got a little bit of Will Smith playing. Summertime. That's what it is.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and turn this down.
Yes, sir.
Oh, it is Friday. It has been
Friday. Great day for a weekend.
Glorious week. Everybody's here. We're smiling. We're healthy. So we can't ask for anything more. Welcome to the Ben and Jay Show. I am one half of this conglomerate. I am Jay, and this is the man right here, the myth, the legend himself, Ben Hartranft. And we just want to welcome. But before anything, let's pay these bills by saying this webinar is made possible by Access Services. Access Services is a nonprofit serving 11 counties in Eastern Pennsylvania with the mission to create better ways to serve people with special needs. They've been doing it for over 44 years and only expanding their services as they bend to fit the needs of those in Eastern Pennsylvania.
I met Jamel through my mom. My mom worked with Marna at CHOP.
My wife.
And so we literally started connecting. And Jamel said, we got to get this guy on my show. So I was on the Awesome Show. It was a year, next month will be a year that we met.
Yep.
And then after that, in April, when the pandemic hit, I literally was walking and I said, all right, what should I do? And I said, all right, I'll do a show. Called up Jamel. I said, Jamel, let's do a show. And he goes, okay, we'll do it. So we've been doing, this is episode 13 so far. So we've been doing 13 shows. It's just been a great opportunity to outreach to the community, talk to people, and it's just a great way of giving back.
Definitely. So with that story being told, you can't hear me?
I can hear you now. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So Technical Difficulty Friday, that's what we're going to name is. No longer Flashback Friday. It's Technical Difficulty Friday. But I'm going to make it short and sweet so we can get to this interview. My story is not as glamorous as Ben. It basically is inspired by Ben and individuals just like him. Pretty much my son, Shane. My name is Jamel Owens. I am an awesome father. And the reason why I started the Awesome Show was I was in a place when I found out my son was diagnosed that I felt alone. I felt angry. I felt like there was no one that could understand me and no one that I could talk to. So throughout my life, a lot of challenges, a lot of things that would actually hold me back or basically destroy me didn't. And the reason why is because I always seek more. I seek the truth. I seek what was the stronger element of being a father. And I found that. And I found that my own personal journey, I found that through my religion, which is Christianity, getting closer with God. So with that, it always says love on thy neighbor. So I created the Awesome Show, which is a platform that allows fathers to speak out about autism, but also get a chance to hear from another father, someone that looks just like them, someone that can relate to them, and give them a platform where they can do everything that they need to do in order to be that awesome father for their awesome child. So I did have Ben and his father on the show. They melted my heart personally as a father. Ben became my brother from another mother. And we're here today and we're doing the Ben and Jay Show. We're about 17 episodes strong. Who could ever believe that during the midst of COVID, we started this and we're only just getting better. So thank you to everybody who's out there. Let's just get right into it. So I just want everybody to really pay attention to the information, the stories, everything that's going to be mentioned today, because this is happening in our country. Just imagine receiving a phone call regarding your son and daughter. Just the thought of these possibilities are enough to make any parent cry, even myself. During a single year, an estimated 2.1 million youth under the age of 18 are arrested in the United States. Though overall rates have been declining over the past years, approximately 1.7 million delinquency cases are disposed in juvenile courts annually. Keep that in mind. Now let's look at these clips. These are a grim reality of what can and unfortunately what will happen to awesome parents like myself and others. Let's roll these clips. that last one, Jude, you know, I didn't want to bring any old memories up, but I just want to actually commend you because even though at that time that video was old, it's an older video, but in the midst of you feeling pain about your son, you still asked the public to pray for someone else,
Yes.
to give energy to someone else in their family. So I really wanted the people to see that and understand that you're not just a person talking from the outside, but you're a person talking from the inside. You know, you have experienced this personally. So you are very much qualified to answer a lot of questions, a lot of concerns that parents or individuals that may not know where to turn to can answer, you and Brian alike. Um, so there is a parent out there who feels like life is over due to a diagnosis, maybe even because he or she feels alone with raising our awesome children. The thought of adding the prison confinement to this unpacking of the equation, one could say, is detrimental. A quick statistic from the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau. This was 2015. Now, this is 2015. This is now we're in 2020, 5 years later. So the statistics can probably be astronomical. But in 2015, states found that 2 in 10 prisoners and 3 in 10 jail inmates reported having cognitive disabilities. That's an alarming number. Today, we have 2 parents that have went through the horrific process and then and now chooses not to let any other parent experience this. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Judy actually, but she prefers Jude, Harrison and Brian Kelmar. Thank you guys for joining us. Um, you guys are essential. We talk about essential employees. We talk about who's essential and just living currently right now. You guys are definitely essential, and
Yes.
people are going to understand why.
Yeah.
So Ben, you got the first question.
I
buddy.
got you. All right. So sorry about that. So so Jude and Brian, can you tell me more about is that Lori?
Elred.
Lauren? Okay, Lauren. Okay, I couldn't pronounce his name. I'm sorry.
So Brian, why don't you take that?
I'll take that one. LRID stands for Legal Reform for Intellectual and Developmentally Disabled in there. We'll tell my story a little bit later, but situation similar to Jude's had happened to my son. And I was crushed by it, our family was crushed by it. And I was asked to present on a webinar similar to this for the ARC of the US, myself and another parent. And they usually have 100 to 150 people that sign up. They had over 1,000 people sign up before they couldn't let any more on because it could only hold so many people. We realized that the situation like Jude and I are in is not uncommon. In fact, it was very common. And we decided, myself and 2 other parents got together and we said we'll form an organization to help support people, support families, and hopefully change things so this doesn't happen to somebody else's family in the future. And that's what we're all about. So we started a few years ago with just 3 of us, and now there's hundreds of us all across the nation in almost every single state.
Wow.
Our vision, let me just give you a vision real quick. We're legal reform for prevention, intervention, and diversion instead of prosecution.
Wow, that's amazing. Ben, you got a question too, buddy.
I do. As an autistic male who strives for self-advocacy and independence, should I be scared of our justice system?
Take that one, Jude.
I don't like to fill people with fear. I would rather empower you by saying, educate yourself very well,
Yes.
start to be connected with your local autism society, maybe the ARC there in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You know, I think that so much of it has to do with not only the training of police and first responders, but also the training of the person who's on the spectrum or has, you know, an intellectual or developmental disability. So I feel, Ben, that you would handle yourself very well. So I think that that's a part of it. Unfortunately, a lot of times when the police arrive and they start with the questions, the person on the spectrum, in this case, does not realize that they can have an attorney present, or they don't have to answer all of these questions right now. And
Yes.
so interrogations can begin.
And this is, can I just piggyback on what you said real quick? This is why we need police training in all parts of the United States. And
Definitely.
it just scares me to think, like, what's going to happen to our children when they get older, or what's going to happen to me when I get older, or what's going to happen to, gosh, or younger children. Like, I just thought of something. Like, if they don't know how to, like, handle the questions, I'm like, I don't know what that means. And they go, give me an answer or not. But I'm like, I need time to process and think about it.
You know what, Ben? Better yet, tell everyone, including Jude and Brian, but all of our attendees here on a webinar, you had a let's say a run-in with a police officer.
I did.
So tell us, first off, how did you feel?
Yeah.
Did you feel confident? Did you feel nervous? Did
Well,
you have anxiety? Tell us how that interaction actually went.
Thank you for bringing that up, Jamel. First of all, I want to give this shout out to the Lansdale Police Department because they are really, really amazing. And Montgomery Township, they're very cool as well. You know, I was actually speeding and these lights came on and I'm like, is he pulling me or is he pulling somebody else? And I'm like, oh no. So I literally pulled over and he goes, can you pull over a little bit more into the side? I said, okay. And he goes, so I pulled over and then he walks out and he goes, sir, you know why I pulled you over? And I went, because I was speeding. He goes, yeah. Can I see your license and registration? Pulled it out. I gave him, and I showed him my autism card and he goes, what's this? And he goes, I have autism, sir. So I might have a hard time understanding what you say. And he goes, okay. So it was very cool. Like, I literally just calmed myself down. And, you know, this is what we need. We need people to understand that there's somebody with disability and they go, oh, I understand. Oh, I didn't know you have autism. Here, let me just take it down a little bit. I'm not going to yell at you. I just wanted to teach you what we need to learn. And then that's what made me motivated of like what we need more training like this. So that's when I met Tom and then of course the police officer did let me go and he said, I'm letting you go this time. So yeah. But I would love to see if we can connect with more police stations on how can we get your guys' training and my friend's training and some other training combined together and show like a demonstration of something.
Definitely. But you know what? It just unpacking what Ben said was his interaction was smooth because he offered the information of okay. Are we good? All right. He offered the information that he was on the spectrum, which is something that is very, very important. I can see because you're giving information that is very important to how you may act around the officer. And obviously the officer took that in consideration when speaking to Ben and the circumstances that caused him to pull him over. So that is a key point that I want people to basically hear. And this is from Ben himself. Let's just start there with the unpacking of everything we're going to talk about tonight. Just keep that in the back of your mind. I'm going to go into the next question. As I mentioned earlier in the show, the statistics are completely appalling. I've worked in the prison system. I was a corrections officer uh, about what about 4 years ago, and I've seen firsthand what goes on in prison. It's something that cameras, which you see on Netflix, can never caption the full gist of what prison is like. Jude and Brian, what are some things that the prison system here and worldwide need to adapt or completely overhaul?
I'll address it first, and then I think Jude needs to address it because she's lived it. One of the things that we're looking to try and implement this year, we had a law passed here in Virginia that Jude, myself, and other members of LRID, along with the ARC, introduced. And it was to develop policies to take in the account of developmental disabilities such as autism. They screen for mental illness, and a lot of people, don't realize the difference between the two: mental illness, schizophrenia, things like that, things that can be either cured or treated in there, versus developmental disabilities like autism, which cannot be treated or cured in there. And they just don't have the policies in there. So we introduced a law that said that they were going to meet, and that Jude's going to be one of the members of that group, to come up with policies to screen for autism and how to handle situations for autism. And I'll let Jude get more into it. She's personal experience
That's
there.
so cool.
So
Yeah.
go ahead, Jude.
Thank you, Brian. So tomorrow will be 1 year that our son has been home from prison. And so the 25th is a big day for us. We went and picked him up. He served 3 active years. So the video that you saw was about 2.5 years ago. And, that I think that speaks for itself, the kind of pain and trauma that, I think everybody knows. But for someone on the autism spectrum, I know that my son has post-traumatic stress disorder on top of, autism. He now has nightmares pretty much every night. He has disturbing dreams, if not nightmares. A lot of it circles around being taken back to prison for something that he didn't do. Usually it's some paperwork error or something that, should be avoided. But so he lives now with this pain and trauma that really there were so many other options. So part of what I hope when working with the Department of Corrections is to help them understand that he's not mentally ill. The people who are in there who are on the autism spectrum are not mentally ill. Drew, instead of being in general population, was at least put in the mental health care unit, which was a step up, but it wasn't the answer, because he was around people who were screaming and yelling all of the time. So with autism, you often have the sensory overload, the sounds of yelling, screaming, screeching intercoms, the cell doors slamming, the bright lights, fluorescent lights that are on usually 24/7. Just all of it, trying to adapt, negotiating the rules of not only the inmates, but then the rules of the prison itself. So it's a lot to ask of someone with autism.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to really just go into a little bit deeper into what you just said. And I'm going to speak from my former training in corrections. We had no training at all that dealt with individuals with special needs. It was either you were in general population or you were put on the unit for psychiatric advisement.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I remember the most being on the psychiatric unit, because I was on there several times, was that we disregarded anything that they pretty much said, for the fact that we were conditioned to do that. We knew what their diagnosis was because we needed to know that information, and we were told to disregard anything that they say. So I can only imagine what your son went through being on that unit and really having possibly, you know, an officer or two who really didn't care about what he had to say. It was just by the book. This is what you had to do. You get out, you get your time, your rec time, you take a shower, you eat, you go back in your cell. So it's hurtful because I kind of feel obligated to apologize to, and I don't know, maybe an inmate that was in there may see it, maybe not. I feel obligated to apologize because even though my son was on the spectrum, I was kind of oblivious to even think that someone on the autism spectrum can actually end up in prison. So, you know, it's kind of sad, and I kind of regret not being more aware of that. And I think I just needed to say that because, you know, God forbid I could have ran into someone just like, you know, your son, and I could have treated him like garbage because I was conditioned to do so. And that really hurts about, you know, my tenure with corrections. I hope this show, what you guys have passed in Virginia and working on globally, will actually start to transform some of the things that we need to take place inside law enforcement, corrections, police, and anywhere. I mean, you know, paramedics, any type of law enforcement or first responders would definitely need this attention. So I just wanted to say that to you, Jude. I definitely do feel you're hurt, and I just want to apologize as a former CEO to you and anybody who's listening. You know, I'm sorry. You know, I didn't know. I'm sorry.
Well, I hope that I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I hope that you can forgive yourself. You did not know what you did not know, and look what you're doing now.
Yeah, God works in mysterious ways. Don't
Exactly.
definitely do.
Yeah.
Brian, to your story. Your story is, you know, the foundation is still the same, but it's a little different. Can you tell us a little bit about your son? I wanted to get a little more information about it because as our awesome children get older, puberty plays a very big role. So can you
Sure.
speak a little bit about your son's story?
My son was a teenager when this happened. He just graduated high school, and he was off to the university away from home. This is his first time away from home. He had gotten a friend of my younger son had reached out to him, and they met at a party, and she started texting him. And being alone, having autism, and not having any friends, he was excited to have somebody text him. The conversation started out very casual. What's your favorite color, your favorite football team, etc. things. And then they started getting sexually aggressive. Not from him, from her. And she even asked at one point, "You really don't understand what I'm talking about?" And he went, "No, not really." And he wasn't sure how to handle the situation. There was nobody there to support him. It was the summertime, the summer session in there. He would tell her, "I have a girlfriend, leave me alone," whatever it is. And she kept getting more aggressive and aggressive. Well, she finally had asked to have him meet or hook up, which he had no idea what that meant. And he felt, well, if I do that, then she'll leave me alone. So when he came home for break, he met with her. They went out and they drove around, and he has some back problems, so he pulled over and had to stop like he normally does. About 30 minutes, he can't drive anymore. It hurts his back. She started getting very sexually aggressive and was actually starting to play out some of the things that happened. With a lot of kids similar in his situation, his brain, I always say it's like a computer. When you have 15 things up on the screen, what happens? The screen freezes. And what do you have to do? You shut it down, and then you have to reboot. And that's what happens in his mind a lot of times with stimulus overload, whether it's lights, smells, touch, whatever it may be. It's overload, and he stops. And in a little, it will take him 2-3 minutes or so. Could even take up to 5 minutes, where he just basically shuts down. And then when he realized what was going on, he said, stop. He took her home. In the middle of the night that night, the police came to our door. He answered the door because he was closest to the door and I was still asleep. They pulled him out and they asked him, do you know this person? He said, yes. And tell me what happened. And, you know, to your point, Ben, this is where it's really important to learn is you don't say anything.
Yeah.
He thought she was in trouble. He wanted to please them. He wanted to tell them, yes, this is what happened. And she started to do this to me. They arrested him. And by that time I came downstairs. I went, whoa, 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 hold on. He has autism. And the police officer was very nice. He listened, but it just, I don't think he was trained in that area and had no idea really what it was about. They took him off to jail. I was finally able to get him out 3 days later on a $100,000 bond. We ended up plea bargaining. And as you know, 95% of the cases in the courts are plea bargain. And once you're in the criminal justice system, you're in. It doesn't matter guilty, innocent, whatever. We plea bargained. He went to the trial. He pleaded no contest because he asked his lawyer, he said, I can't say I'm guilty. I'm a Eagle Scout. I don't lie. I didn't do anything. She was aggressive. And he went into the court. They asked him all these questions. Do you understand? And during the conversation, he looked over at the lawyer to say, do I understand? And the lawyer had to shake his head. Because that's another thing that happens with autism is although you are competent to stand trial, most of them are, a lot of times you really have no clue what's going on. They understand maybe from watching Law and Order, but that's about it. He pleaded no contest. The judge had the sentencing, and even the judge had said clearly she was the aggressor, and clearly this child has disabilities. Unfortunately, the state of Virginia does not recognize developmental disabilities. He was sentenced to 10 years. He got probation, and the judge realized, what was going on, but his hands were tied. What we didn't understand, because the way the laws are written here, he not only got 10 years probation, and not only did he have to go on to the sexual registry because it was with a girl, because the laws, how they are, he's now considered a violent sexual predator for life. It has destroyed him. It has destroyed our family. And that's the main reason why I started LRID. And that's why we're trying to introduce laws to change these things. So here's our family and him who have enough challenges day to day, now trying to navigate the criminal justice system. And to your point, Ben, what happens when we're gone?
Yeah.
That's our concern.
I totally agree. Like,
so from there, we have started the organization. I've taken my frustration and my whatever anguish and anxiety, and I've turned it into the efforts of this organization. As we said before, we don't ever want to have another person's child go through what our childs have gone through.
That's scary.
Ben, I think everybody hearing that story is enraged, just to understand what just happened to Brian's son. Well, not just happened, but what has happened to Brian's son. 10 years, and we're talking about a community, the autism community, are awesome individuals who already have problems with finding jobs because of the disabilities. And employers, they do, without a doubt. But let's be honest here. Let's just be transparent. Ben works. Shout out to Giant for getting Ben on and Dorney Park, and these are companies that actually hold dear to those individuals that have disabilities, but majority of them don't. And now this individual has to be on a registry for the rest of his life for something that he actually had the courage to tell a girl. How many of us men actually have not had the courage to tell a woman, we don't want to go there with you. But we fall into temptation and peer pressure and go ahead and do something that we're uncomfortable with. And this young man had the courage to sit there and say, stop, I don't want this. And in turn, he got 10 years probation and a lifetime on the actual registry. It's this is crazy, Ben. I know you wanted to say something. I'm sorry. I just had to get that off my chest.
No, I lost my train of thought. But Brian brought up a very good point to me, and he said, what's going to happen? What's going to happen when we get older or when we're gone? And I'm like, gosh, I don't really know. I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't. And it's just clearly to me is that that we don't know what's going to happen to our future and our awesome children. I am scared because I want Governor Wolf to really pass this law that Virginia did as well, because I think our governor needs to listen to us. I really do think if our governor just talks about it and takes it under consideration, we'll pass this law. And I think we need to go up to Harrisburg. We need to make a phone call with him and say, look, we need this law to be in place in Pennsylvania.
I think it's with that we're coming from that side, Ben, but it's also to us parents, our awesome mothers and fathers out there that really need to start having these talks with our children when it comes down to situations like this. It is very difficult, and it's something that we try to steer away from, but we want, and with all due respect, Brian, we don't want our children to be in a situation like Brian's. So I have to bite the bullet on that one, because quite honestly, I haven't talked to my son Shane about that yet. I do know he does like a girl. I do know that he considers her a friend, but I have to start now really injecting the concept of friendship versus dating and what the boundaries are when it comes down to that. Because Brian, I'm sorry, I'm not as strong as you. I can't imagine my son being locked up and thrown in prison for something that he didn't commit. Quite honestly, I can't even imagine Ben locked up. I would definitely feel some type of way if Ben unfortunately got into some trouble and I found out about it from his parents. So it's crazy to even think about this. Miss Harrison, let me ask you a question with this. What would reform, both of you guys actually, but Jude, I want you to go first. What would reform for autistics look like to you?
You mean criminal justice reform?
Criminal justice reform, I'm sorry, yes.
So Brian can elaborate a little bit on this, but we had 3 laws passed here in Virginia that we fought really hard for at the General Assembly. So parents who are listening, know that you do have power with your stories, and you do have the power. Go to your local legislators, your delegates, your state senators, and talk to them about the laws that you would like to see changed, like we got here in Virginia. So it starts with education. So that was a law that was passed here to educate the kids starting in kindergarten through 12th grade. And I'll let Brian elaborate a little bit more on that. And then if, God forbid, somehow they appear to have done something criminal, because a lot of times these kids didn't really do anything criminal, it just appears that they did. So if they somehow get arrested for something, then we had a bill passed for the judge has the opportunity to say, I see questions here about whether or not a crime has been committed, or just the consideration of, say, autism and that it wasn't a criminal act. So the judge has the ability to maybe have a probation officer look at the case for a couple of years and then dismiss it. And so Brian can talk a little bit more about that. And then the third bill that was turned into law July 1st is if the person does end up having to go to prison, that the prison system, the DOC, has to find a way to accommodate people on the spectrum.
Wow.
So I had a thought too, and I wanted to say it. I tell young people this all the time. I'm going to say it to Ben. I'm going to say it to all of you people who are listening, and Jamel, pass this along to your son. Do not ever text anything that you would not want a judge to read in court. It can be against you. Your words can be twisted, and you can appear guilty of a crime when you're just guilty of communicating poorly. And that's really the bottom line of what happened with my son. And he received a 50-year prison sentence, and with 3 active years, 47 suspended. So he has 47 years hanging over his head if he did anything that even appeared to be, so not necessarily committing a crime, but you know how that goes. And he's also, unfortunately, on the sex offender registry. So criminal justice reform would say we have to level the playing field. We can't have the same rules. We can't hold people to the same standard. It's not to say that they can go out and willy-nilly just commit crimes and say, oh, well, he or she has autism. That's not what it's about. It's to properly consider, number one, was there really a crime? And then, to go at it in that way. So I guess I would say to stop criminalizing behaviors that are just a manifestation of autism spectrum disorder, and to find more and better ways to deal with this.
So
I'd like to chime in there on that. The one bill that we passed, I think, is very important, and Joelle, on your discussion about talking with your children. What we did is pass a law for basically sexual health education for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and it's part of their individual education plan. And this starts all the way in kindergarten and continues through 12th grade, so that they learn appropriate behaviors, they learn appropriate things that are relationships, correct or not correct, appropriate things as you get older, sexting, texting, and then when they actually do get into a relationship, what no means and what hugging. So we had one family member of ours recently in Northern Virginia where the child came up, he was 17 years old, and he came up and hugged the girl from behind.
Oh.
The school wanted to charge him with sexual assault and indecent behavior and several other charges. And this was because he's a loving guy, and they said, go hug her. He was easily influenced and bullied, and the guy said, yeah, go hug her. So he hugged her from behind. She didn't like it. She said something, and the school escalated it from there. And this happened. So with this law and introducing the sexual education and sexual health, children feel more comfortable in situations. They understand situations, and it also protects them because we also have a lot. It's 2.5 times more prevalent that people with disabilities are taken advantage of sexually than the normal population. But if they're educated, at least they know, number one, that's not appropriate behavior. You can't do that to me. Stop. I don't care what you tell me. I've learned. And one of the things with a lot of our children is once they learn something, they learn it. And they will be sticklers beyond belief. And they will tell you, you are getting too close to that woman. Stay away from her. And they'll take it to the nth extreme. And, like both the judges said to Jude's and mine, I really expect that you would never be here again. And it's true, as the court said, the chances of him having a recidivism is about 2%. And the prosecutor tried to amp that up and say, well, you mean 2% he could do it again? He said, no, it's 2% that he could get a traffic ticket. And guess what? In 10 years, he hasn't even gotten a traffic ticket or a parking ticket.
Look at that.
And he has been he was out on actually on probation. He didn't have to go to jail. The judge realized it. But that is one law. The other one that we're pushing for, looking for this year, is something called a disability response team. They have one in Loudoun County, Virginia, and what they do is the ARC of the U.S. brings in trainers. It's called the Pathways to Justice, and they educate law enforcement. In fact, we had a lot of Department of Corrections of Loudoun County were in there.
Good.
And they also bring in police officers, judges, and they educate them on the autism spectrum. And what they do is they have some key people that if the first responders, police officers, or whoever call and they say, well, we have somebody, we're not sure, we think there's something on autism or something like that, the disability response team actually shows up.
Wow.
And diffuses the situation. And I think to Ben's point is slow things down and let's talk about it and get through it instead of he's guilty, we arrest him, he's gone. Wow. And then then you get the criminal justice system and it just keeps on rolling. So that's, I think, a good opportunity with, all the things going on in today's world of having people diffuse the situation and help the police officers. Mm-hmm. You have to train them and you have to give them the tools. And you know what? They can't be everything to everybody in there. But there are experts out there that you could call people in. And this is one of the laws that we're trying for here in 2021 here in Virginia. The other law that Jude talked about was the situation with my son. The judge really couldn't do diversion because had he done that, there's nothing in the law that says you can't. There's nothing in the law that says you can't. But if you do and somebody questions it, they'll say, well, where in the law did it say you could do that? Well, now in the law, it says, judges, you can do that. You can do diversion instead of criminal justice. And we're hoping that we see a lot more changes going forward in there.
I want to definitely first unpack what you said about the IEP. Mm-hmm. Parents, caregivers, individuals who are listening to this, 9 times out of 10, I can guarantee you that your IEP does not have any of this in it. My son's IEP does not. And now we have a problem because now listening to Brian and listening to Judy, this is something that needs to be in his IEP. I will address that with his coordinator at his school immediately. I suggest that you do the same. Sexual education needs to come at our children from all directions. We need to encourage our children to learn about not only themselves, but the opposite sex and the boundaries that need to take place when interacting with those individuals. Very important. Brian, thank you for bringing that up with the IEP and the laws in place. These laws need to be passed everywhere. We need these laws to be passed everywhere immediately because as we are talking right now, unfortunately, there may be another autistic who is having a police interaction that is not going so well. And this is as we speak right now. Yes. So, did you have any statistics, anything that you wanted to show the audience?
Yes, there's a couple things there. One, I wanted to bring up slide 9 that tells the success story that we had here in Virginia. And it also talks about the 3 bills that we had. And I think that Jude had a great point. It's not just calling the governor, it's the families that go and meet with their legislators. Mm-hmm. I can't emphasize enough. It's your stories that makes the difference. What we did is partner with our local ARC, our LRID families, and which we have LRID all over the country and in Pennsylvania. We went to the legislators. We told them our stories, and we said, what is it you can do? Well, we've already started that, and we're encouraging. Our intent is to get these laws passed in Virginia, and then our other LRID members, and we hope people here will join in Pennsylvania to push to get similar laws and roll these same similar laws out across the country. I have met with our Congresswoman Spanberger on trying to push this out, part of civil rights bills that are coming out. And so we're trying to work with her and trying to get some of this out there so that these situations and these bills are being addressed nationally and not just in Virginia. I do want to point out we did get our education from, we work with Blair County, Pennsylvania, which is up in Altoona. The ARC up there of Blair County had a similar situation, and they went before the judge, and the judge said, do you mean this child has not been educated in this along the way? And we found out that a lot of kids, because they have autism, they're actually pulled out of sexual education because you don't need that. You don't have to worry about that for whatever myth or reason they think. And the judge said, well, I'll tell you what, you need to get education in this county right now, or I'm going to come after the county instead of this kid. And they did. And they reached out to Dr. Michelle Garcia in Texas, who has a program. And it's a very specific program. And it is just for people with autism and developmental disabilities. And it's geared towards their own developmental age. I'd like to jump back to slide 5, if you could, in there, which is pretty important.
Didn't she design Superflex, Michelle?
This is your physical growth. That's your sexual growth. Your social growth with a lot of people with developmental disabilities is typically 2/3 that of your chronological age. So our children may be 18, 19 years old, and sexual growth, their bodies are going to change just like everybody else. But their social development and understanding the situations are that of a 12-year-old in there. And obviously, if you're 16, it's more of a 10 or 8-year-old in there. Mm-hmm. And it's important that this gets out there and people understand that so that they get the proper education at the proper age, at their proper level, all along the way, as I said, starting in kindergarten. And it can't be 2 weeks, sex ed, got it, you're done. It doesn't work that way for our kids. It's, I think you pointed out the best is it's got to be continuous at all angles and throughout their growth so that they understand the appropriate behaviors at the appropriate times.
Definitely. It's funny. Once again, I'm realizing so many aspects that I've learned over time. My son is 12. But I tell, people who meet my son Shane, and this is not to discredit Shane or anyone that's on the spectrum, but though his body is of a 12-year-old, his mindset is not quite at the same age. So, and I look at my son and I'm like, this is a grown man because he's just so big. But I have to remember, and that comes in a lot of times with parenting, that I have to talk to him a little bit different than what I would do a normal 12-year-old, which is perfectly fine. But we must realize this when interacting with our awesome children and awesome adults, is that they may be 32 in age, but their mindset is a little bit younger. The charts are very helpful that you actually have, Brian, because I think people are not realizing the significance of actually speaking this into the children, identifying a perfect starting point age, which, normally for quote unquote normal people, we start talking about sex, the birds and the bees around preteen. Maybe we need to start a little bit earlier with our awesome children. Now, that could be a little controversial, but just really one-on-one talk saying, hey, do you like a girl? What's her name? How do you feel about this girl? Just asking questions and then setting boundaries dead on. First, starting off before preteen, I think might be a very good preventive measure, along with teacher and support staff in schools, reinforcing this per the IEP. So I hope these graphs help a lot of individuals that are looking today who's going to see this interview, because it's very important to know this information.
Well, and
I wanted to point out, it's not just, the birds and the bees. In kindergarten, no, you're not going to teach birds and bees.
Oh,
but
yeah.
you are going to teach them, don't go out in the playground and pull your pants down.
There you go.
Something as simple as that. Or don't go up and grab a girl in there. That's not, we don't touch people. That's not right behavior. And then as they progress, then you talk about getting on the computer in there. What should you not look at? Because it's not clearly defined. And with autism and a lot of other developmental disabilities, it's black or it's white. There is no gray. And if you don't teach it, they're not going to pick it up. They're not going to pick it up from their classmates because why? They don't have a lot of friends in there. People think they're strange or weird or whatever, and they don't talk to them. And most of us actually picked up probably some of those things from our friends in the locker room or wherever in there. I guarantee we didn't pick up a whole lot from school in sexual health education. And then those discussions that you talked about, the birds and bees, where you started is going to be appropriate depending on their age and their developmental age in there. For some of those kids, it may be 16. For some, it may be 12. I don't know, 13 in there. But that's why you have experts in there. It's not people. You talk about sexual health, and one of the things we ran into on the Hill was, oh my God, you mentioned the word sex. And, they all think it's, oh, you're going to teach them about sex. It's like, no. We're teaching about themselves, about sexual appropriate relationships, about their own development. What happens down there when they're 13? Oh my God, am I wrong? Is something wrong going with me? Or understanding, how do you go up and talk to people? What are the right situations? What are the right inter and intra relationships? How do you handle those? So the program in our Department of Education here in Virginia has been working very aggressively. And I've met with them a few times, and they've got some pretty detailed programs. They've actually reached out to other states on what they're doing. And I encourage Pennsylvania to reach out to Virginia on what they're doing.
Yes.
It is tailored to the kindergarten specifically and their development, and it's also tailored for the 12th grader in there that's getting ready to go off to college in there. And I want to point out the other thing is with autism is just because one part of the brain doesn't work, it doesn't mean the other part doesn't work. And there, my son has a college degree. We have people that have been in this situation have doctorate degrees and is a noted author in there. It's just one part of their brain. It's just like somebody who is blind. It's because they're blind doesn't mean they can't hear, or they can't speak, or they can't, function. It's the same thing with our kids. We have a little part that's not connected. Well, guess what? We all have disabilities in there, and we learn to overcome them.
We sure do. Ben, I know there was something while Brian was speaking that you wanted to add on, and then you have the next question that I sent to you. So go ahead. You can have the floor.
We were just talking about like Pennsylvania and just saying that we do need more of these laws passed around the United States and Pennsylvania. Is this something that really needs to be heard?
Definitely. Why don't you go ahead and ask the next question that I sent to you?
What question do you want me to do?
The question I sent to you?
Oh, yes. Okay. That's question, gosh. Oh, yeah, question 6. Okay. I just want to make sure. Sorry. I just didn't know how much time we have. We have plenty of time. We'll be fine. Okay. All right, next question. Jude and Brian, how are your kids doing since their interaction with the law enforcement?
Well, my son is pretty much petrified of the police, understandably. He won't drive. He knew how to drive, and hopefully at some point he will, get back into feeling comfortable enough to get a driver's license and get back out there he's not going to break a law. He's probably one of the number one people who would not break any kind of a law. But this does permanent emotional damage to you. And so, he's not doing great, but I'm going to say that he's doing better than could be. We have been grateful that he's home, that tomorrow will mark one day that he was home and that he didn't have to be in prison during this COVID. So, we find the things to be grateful for, but it's, I give him so much credit for being the strong young man that he is. He's a very good person. And so, he physically, he goes for walks, he does what he can to keep himself in good mental and physical shape. He sees a therapist online because of COVID. But so I think that with time, his healing will continue and he'll be able to move on. He does want to help other young people on the spectrum not to ever end up in the circumstance that he's been put through.
Wow.
My son is doing pretty good. He actually drives. He lives on his own. He does have support. He was able to get for people who are familiar with the DD waiver. So he does have support services that help him to navigate and live out on his own, do his own grocery shopping, have his own place in there. But emotionally, to Jude's point, he will always have that hanging over his head. He always has that in the back of his mind. He also goes to therapy in there. It does cause depression and PTSD, even from the arrest when they took him into jail. It was unbelievably traumatic. I mean, it's traumatic for anybody, but for an autistic person, it's probably 10 times worse, if not more in there. So he'll always live with that, but he's trying to make the best of it. He's trying to get a job, and to your point, that has not worked out too well in the years. And we continue to try and get that. But unfortunately, with the registry, pretty much everybody does a background check, and as soon as that comes up, it's over. And that's I just want to point out another law that we're trying to push for is we talk about everybody getting a second chance, but we don't give it to the kids with developmental disabilities in there. And our kids that won't get a second chance, but they should have the opportunity to get a chance. They got it in a situation one time, they made a mistake because they didn't understand because of autism. There's got to be ways that these people, our children, can move on. And it's very important that they move on because we mentioned earlier, we won't be, mom and dad, we won't be here forever.
Yes.
Definitely. We did have more questions, but we do want to give the audience a chance to ask you guys some questions. I think that's the most important part after hearing your story and the information. So at this time, we're going to open the floor up to questions. We just ask that everyone is respectful of each one's turn to ask their questions. And just tell us your first name before asking the question, and tell us who you're directing the question to, if it's general for all of us or for Brian or for Judy. So everybody's microphone is unmuted and you can ask away.
Hi, I'm Alyssa.
Hey, what's
Hey,
up?
Alyssa, what's going on?
Nothing much. I just wanted to say Brian's story has really, it aches my heart. People do not deserve that kind of treatment from the law. Like, they deserve much, much, much better treatment, if you want my opinion. And I wanted to ask to all of you, is there any advice to give to people on the spectrum and parents on the spectrum, what to do if the parent is gone? Because I've been a kind of scared about that, like what will happen, if my mom's gone, and it makes me kind of cry a bit. I'm sorry, but
No,
you
that's
know,
a good point. That's a really good point. We want to help people when we get older.
yeah,
And there's different ways that we can do that. But it's just like it makes me think like when my parents are gone, what's gonna happen to me or you or everybody else? I mean, when my brothers are gone too, it's just like what's gonna happen? Like our future, we don't know. I mean, God, it's up to God. I know God has a plan for that, but it's like, how can we show love and respect to other people? I don't know. That's a really good question. I know, Alyssa, you're from New Jersey. I'm hoping New
yes,
Jersey can take this into consideration as well.
yeah. I'm just, I want my mom to be around for a long time because she's really special to me.
Aw.
Yeah, she really is. She's like an autism warrior. She's just a really great woman, and everybody who has children on the spectrum, you guys are absolutely brave and courageous, for telling your stories,
Wow.
and you're amazing every which way. You are absolutely amazing, like all of you are. And
Wow.
even if I haven't met you, you are, I know for sure you're amazing in every which way, and I know you're struggling, and you just, when you're at your lowest point, you just gotta hold on, okay? You gotta hold on for, you know, other people on the spectrum, and even your own kid, if you have them.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point there.
Thank
That's
you.
definitely good. Brian, Judy, do you have anything for Alyssa in her question?
I want to tell her that she's amazing and that, I just, I can hear that she has a wonderful mom and a good relationship with her
Yes.
mom. And, maybe she and her mom can get in touch with their legislators and make sure that good laws are there for Alyssa and the other people there in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
In New Jersey. She was in Jersey.
And, oh, okay. And New Jersey and New York, everywhere. We need it everywhere.
I'll make sure to
One of
get in touch with her about that. Go ahead, Brian.
there is the ARC of New Jersey is probably one of the strongest advocates in criminal justice reform. Uh, Ms. Oppenheimer is the executive director there, the ARC of New Jersey, and I've actually worked with her and reached out to her on some of the things that we're working on. So reach out to them and get your mom, and you tell the story too. You're a critical part, and they need to see and hear from you on how your life is affected, what it means to you to get those laws changed. Find other support groups that have people on the spectrum that you can have and turn to when mom and dad aren't there, or somebody to talk to and work with and get involved.
Mhm.
There's organizations out there that you can get involved and you can make a difference too. And there, autism is just one thing that you have. It's a people say it's a handicap. No, we all have issues.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
there, you
Yeah.
can do whatever you put your mind to. So I
Absolutely.
wish you all the best in there.
Yeah, thank you, Brian and Judy. Jude, I'm sorry. I really appreciate your comments so much, and I hope you have a very happy end with your kids. I really hope you have that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Alyssa.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Alyssa. We appreciate your support always. We
Wow.
have the floor still open for any more questions from anybody.
Can I just say something? Alyssa had something really powerful to say.
Mhm.
I really liked how she said it. Shout out to Alyssa. That was actually really good.
Yeah, it was. While we wait for anybody to chime in, I basically want to give a position from a father's point of view. I remember recently just telling my son that, just talking to him man to man and telling him, dad is not going to be here. forever. And this was the first time he basically hugged me and said, "No, I don't want daddy to leave." Probably one of the hardest things to actually experience, but also the best feeling in the world that your son doesn't want you to leave. There is not a night I don't go to sleep fearful about what my son will be or will become in the future, and me not being there to protect him from all the ills in the world. But as Ben has touched on, and things that I have experienced in my life, we have to have faith.
Yes.
We have to have some type of knowledge, and I always point to a spiritual know-how in order to gain some type of peace and calmness that will allow us to know that our children will be okay in the future. So with that said, to any other parents, especially fathers out there, um, build that foundation now. Every minute that you can get with your child, developing, growing, smiling, laughing, scolding, wherever it may be, build that relationship now, because it is going to matter, and they will be okay in the future.
I agree.
The only thing you can do right now that's in your control is what you instill in that child, and let faith do everything else. If you have faith, you have everything in the world. You have every tool that you need in order to see your child succeed in the future. And you
I
can sleep at night, resting easy.
I agree with Jamel. I totally agree with Jamel. I honestly think that we need that. I don't really want my parents to go away, but someday I'll meet them in heaven again. It's just really interesting to see like what will happen if my parents do go up to heaven. It's an interesting question. Like, who's going to be there to help me out and for my future? That's a great question. But I know God has a reality and God has a plan.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, seems like anybody else, you can unmute yourself right now if you want to ask questions. If not, we're just going to keep on
Brian,
going.
can anyone hear me?
Yes. Who is
Okay,
that?
hi. My name is Jerry, and Brian, I've talked to you on the phone. I reached out to you early on in my predicament with my son, who was arrested 3.5 years ago. And sorry,
It's
he
okay.
was never actually convicted, but he's like on house arrest now because it was publicized in the paper and on the news. Never once did they say he had autism. And so he can't get a job. He doesn't drive. He's isolated. And it's one thing that I learned once he finished high school. It's like these kids fall off a cliff because there's no services for them and nothing for them to do, and really no outlets at all. And so, he got on the computer and got in trouble and made a mistake and did not understand the social norms involved. And Brian, you've given me such good advice. It's been a little bit of a while, but I've read some of the books, and it is just a nightmare navigating the criminal justice system.
Mm.
It feels like there's really no future, and I am worried if I'm not here.
Mm.
And he's
Right.
an adult. He's almost 24, but he doesn't drive. He can't have a smartphone. He has, really no friends. And so what do you give him to do?
Can I ask you a question?
Hmm.
Does your son talk?
Oh, yes, yes. He's
Okay.
totally high functioning. He was
Okay.
completely
And,
mainstreamed and
okay. And
and
where are you
capable.
from? What state are you from?
Louisiana.
Louisiana. Wow. 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 Welcome. Welcome. We're so glad you tuned in today. Please feel you don't feel hesitant to ask any questions at all. If you have any questions, please don't how do I say it?
Yeah.
Don't feel hesitant to ask. We are all in this together. We are all one family, and no matter what is going through in life, just talk to me. Talk to Jamel. You could talk to my parents if you want. But seriously, honestly, we are all in this together on what we can do to help our future of our children.
Well, they've offered a diversion plan, I guess, but it's still not really going to help him a ton. I mean, of course, we don't want him to be in jail, but because if anybody Googles his name, the first thing that comes up is all of his, the arrest, which he really did just a minor thing on the computer, but it just got blown out of proportion. And Jude, you were talking about the criminal intent. There wasn't any criminal intent. It was curiosity, and they have that virtual world in the computer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been challenging because they don't treat them they treat them the same as a criminal, and they're not criminals.
Brian, Jude, you have anything to say to Jerry?
Yep, I do remember. Sorry.
No, no problem.
Or Jerry. Jerry, you have my email. You can also reach out to me directly,
Yes.
and feel free to do that. That's the issue, is it becomes sensational journalism. Anything doing with sex in there, they want to blow that up, and we've seen that happen time and time again. And unfortunately, her story is identical to the hundreds of people, and I've talked to every member of LRID personally myself. The stories are very similar. Every kid that has gotten in trouble has been a good kid, has never gotten any trouble, has been just a sweetheart of a person, but they get into a situation because they didn't have the education, number one.
Yes.
And number two, people blow it out of proportion, and they really didn't understand the situation and comprehend. And if they had the proper education, they would have not been in this situation. But yet we still hold these children responsible, and they're children, and they really are children,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're 18, 19, 15, whatever, and it's usually teenagers, because they go through what every other teenager does, right? Is crazy things are going to happen, and they're not sure how to handle it, but don't worry, I can figure it out. And they do, and they get in trouble. And then our society and our laws it's, as we say, it's a living death sentence in there. I encourage your son to as Ben said, reach out to people like Ben, to others. Still get on the internet and do education, whatever he can to continue to grow at some way through that. With COVID, there's lots of education online in there that he can continue, and it's important that he does continue to grow. And it's the hardest thing is, how do you give them hope? And that's what a lot of us have lost as parents, and why we're trying to change things is we want their hope back, and we want our hope back.
Can I just say another thing? I would love to connect with you and just talk about some ideas of like how I can help teach your son be successful and help him get friends in different ways.
Oh, that would be wonderful. That would be
Yeah.
wonderful. I mean, he's almost 24, and he's a kind-hearted, sweet kid, but just has this thing hanging over his head, like you had said. So it's hard to move on.
And another thing too is just like going through high school, going through middle school, and going to church. I mean, I had a lot of friends, but I feel like I didn't get invited to a lot of different places.
Right.
So it was just like really, really hard for me like that, growing up with autism. But then it's just like God literally provided me to different people at the right time. I actually go to a church called Calvary Satterton. I don't know if you're a Christian or not, but
Yeah,
God
we go
can
to
literally
church every
guide me to
Sunday.
very different people. It's called the Disability Ministry, and it goes from 13 to 35. It's just an incredible, incredible, incredible opportunity to actually meet people with disabilities.
Oh, interesting. I would love to hear about it. Well, I don't want to drag y'all on, but thank you so much. And I'm sorry I got emotional, but it just hit so close to home.
Definitely. I think Ben basically hit the nail on the head. Jerry, you have friends with us here at the Ben and Jay Show, the Awesome Show, which is my individual show. Brian, Jude, the whole autism community, we are here for you. When you cried, my soul just ripped apart because I can understand exactly where you're coming from. not in the sense where my son is in the place of your son, but the fact is that we have to make sure that we lift each other up more than just leaving you to drift by yourself. So I appreciate your openness, your transparency, and being strong enough to actually come on here to strangers and speak out about your feelings with your son. I will be praying for you and your son. I have to let you know that God places things in your life because he knows you can handle it. He places your child in your life because he knows you need that child, and vice versa. Your son is going to be okay. If I have anything to actually bet on anything in this world, it will be that your son will be okay. What we live by is a system of the world, but we know who our creator is. We know what is waiting for us. And your son is a part of that. He's a walking angel. So don't let anything that he's going through right now deter you. Just build and strengthen. You have Brian and people like Jude and myself and Ben.
Yeah.
We're going to get you through this. You're going to be stronger coming out of this, and your son will be too. So I just wanted to tell you that, and
Thank you.
I hope it gives you some type of relief.
It's good just to share with people that know what I'm talking about, because there's nobody that we can talk to.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That isolation is very difficult. Please feel free to reach out to me.
I appreciate it.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jerry. God bless you, and I hope you have a good weekend. A good weekend.
Thank
filled with
you.
love.
Thank you so
for
much.
tuning
Thank
in.
you for tuning in.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. So we're going to have to wrap this up, and unfortunately, it's just so much to unpack. But you can see where this is going, where this is going to continue to grow. If you would like to support what we do, please consider donating to Access Services at www.accessservices.org/donate. We're looking for sponsors. We're looking for donations just to continue what we're doing for our community, for your community, for everyone. Follow us on social media for more updates and also inspirational quotes. We want to thank Brian, Judy. You guys have been phenomenal. You guys are definitely doing, in my eyes, God's work. You're loving on other people. You're letting them know that they're not alone. You're fighting for what is not right, and that's the most important thing. You could sit back and be quiet and just deal with your own situations, but you choose not to, and you choose to fight for others. So we definitely appreciate your time and the information that you brought to this. So we normally end the show with some words of encouragement. I'm gonna go ahead and let Ben say his first, but
I
before
just
that,
want to say thank you to before we do that, I just want to say let's all be kind to each other this week. And having autism is not a bad thing. It doesn't characterize who we are. Everyone is unique and special, just like a rainbow. I'd like to thank Applebee's for donating, and I'd like to thank two fans in the Montgomery Mall for donating. I'd like to thank a lot of our sponsors for helping us out, being who we are today. And yeah, and shout out to the Philadelphia Phillies. I hope they win tonight. So take me out to the ball game. So, the losing. Come on.
So before we go, we do have a video at the end of this, but I just want to make sure that you understand that the opinions expressed on the Ben and Jay show pertain to individual perspectives and do not necessarily represent the stance of Access Services and affiliates. So my word of encouragement, I had to dig in deep for this, and I have a video attached to this, and we're going to end with after the video. So once again, many of you may have never known or experienced this, and you may never will. Once again, the purpose for Jude, Brian, myself, and many like us is to open your minds and your hearts to a world that autistic individuals like my son Shane and Ben are living in. It's a world different from ours that might pull what we call reality away from everything and replaces it with a position as pure as the hearts and smiles of a newborn baby. And that's okay. Why? Because just as life cycles from being a baby to an adult, and then older with needing assistance until our day is called, we need to get back to that. And these awesome individuals can help us. Let's listen and let's learn. I want to leave you with this video again of Matthew Rushin, who was undoubtedly convicted wrongly. Though my prayers and sympathy goes out to the victims in this case, he is a victim too. And he is a victim of what we call our justice system. So I just want to end with that. We are going to play a video, but this show is also dedicated to the late great Congressman John Lewis. Watch this. Free Matthew Rushin and those individuals just like him. Free all of them. Yes. Thank you for joining the Ben and Jay Show. We love you all.
We love you guys. Be kind to each other this week. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Thank you, Jude, Brian. Thank you. We love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.